women, single mothers, think that taking care of a child by themselves, just doing it all by themselves, is a flex. We don't. We don't think it's a flex. You think that we chose to live this life and take care of children 24/7 on our own, go to work, pay daycare on our own? No, if that was the case, we would have never laid down with them.
I hate jumping in and pausing the video so early in the beginning, but I have to call a thing a thing. So she just said that, do you think that we would have laid down with the man if this was what we were expecting? This may be an unpopular opinion, but I gotta speak truth. The bottom line is we all have decisions to make. Some good, some bad. A lot of times we act with the worst intentions, thinking we're going to get something out of it. The majority of the time, we act based on what our flesh wants. This man is sexy, he looks good, he's into me, so we open up ourselves to this person who really doesn't have our best interests at heart, is not thinking about the consequences of what could come, like a disease or a baby, and then for whatever reason they decide, I'm not ready to be responsible, and they move on. We've gotten things backwards at the way we handle these situations. So a lot of these situations, people get in for a multitude of reasons, and we'll get into that a little bit more as the video continues.
I have a 2-parent household and a backyard with a dog and a pool, and a husband go to work and come home and lovey-dovey and watch movies. It didn't end like that. You got to understand that. See, mama's babies, daddy's maybe. A mother always has to stand her ground and be there. A daddy can run off. Mother's got to stick around. Even when that child is 18 and older, we still got to be there. See, understand this. Not only did we choose peace for ourselves, we chose peace for our children. See, a lot of you women are in a household right now, and you got a man, and you stand your head so high because you got a man paying the bills, but you're miserable. It's toxic. You forgot all about your mental health. You don't even think right. You're crying your sleep to self. You crying at night by yourself when you got a man laying next to you, but he texting another woman. Sometimes you got to choose peace for yourself. That's the difference. We chose peace over our life. We chose our mental health. We benefited for our children so that they don't have to sit and listen to cussing all back and forth, throwing shit all over the wall. We chose peace in our household.
So how many of you watching this are thinking this was her experience? And it almost sounds recent, if you ask me, and that's just my opinion. The sad reality of all of these situations like this is people will go on TikTok or any other platform and they will take advice from someone who's venting and ranting and raging about a circumstance that she made a choice to put herself in. Now, she's talking generally about women in general that make these decisions to lay down with these men who really have no intentions of anything other than just getting their you-know-what wet. But the point I'm trying to make is there's accountability on both parts. And again, I always have to go back to the biblical perspective because, again, you guys have heard me say this before. God is a God of order. He has outlined in His Word the way that we are supposed to do things. How many of us do things God's way? I'm guilty. I haven't always done things His way. How many of us look at relationships and sex and marriage and we do what feels good instead of doing what honors God? You see, by Him being a God of order, not a God of chaos, when you do things His way, it's not saying that you may not have some chaos, but the blessings that go with choosing to do things His way. How many of us actually wait on God to bring that person into our lives? Most of us are out there on dating sites trying to make something happen instead of sitting back and waiting on God to make those things happen. And again, pointing the finger at myself, I'm guilty of that as well. But life experience and things that I've learned is ultimately, if we could all get to a place where we could learn to trust God, and not only these type of situations, but every situation in our life, we would save ourselves a lot of headaches. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. It's just like kids and their parents. Kids always think mom and dad are stupid, they don't know. And then when they get older, they start realizing, man, mom and dad wasn't so dumb after all. And it's no different with God. You know, we can read the Bible and he'll tell us, don't do this, don't do that. But what do we think as stupid kids? What does God know? We know better than him. It's going to work out for me. I'm not going to be like them other people. I'm going to let her continue ranting. But
I'll tell you one thing. Peace is. So when you question it, write what I just said down.
So in conclusion, and I'm going to get off here, she's talking about several different subjects. And she's talking about peace and having that peace. She's talking about laying in bed with a man who's sitting there texting another woman. To me, she's kind of all over the place. Like I said, maybe this is something personal that she's endured in her life. And I just want to speak to you ladies for a minute. You men, I'll speak to you in a moment. And again, I'm just going to preface this by saying I'm no expert, but I've made a lot of mistakes and I've got a lot of life experience. So you can choose to listen, or you can just click on the next video where you're going to get some more worldly advice from somebody else on one of these platforms. But I'm going to give you truth, and I want to give you a Bible. When we do things the way our Heavenly Father expects us to do, there are blessings that go along with that. When we do things our own way, thinking we know better, especially when He's told us what not to do, we have the chaos and the crazy of broken families, blended families, children born out of wedlock, men basically hitting it and quitting it and rolling on to the next one. You know, this is the kind of consequences that we have. Now, with that being said, I'm not saying that you're not going to have struggles in this life. The Bible makes it very clear. I believe it's in Philippians where it talks about in this world you will have trouble, but be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. See, this world is fallen. All of us are born sinners. I mean, if not for Christ, none of us would have any hope. But also, because of how things are, God has made it very clear that you are going to have challenges and struggles in this life. But what does He also tell us in the book of Romans? That He will work all of these things out for our good. The problem is we get impatient and we can't wait. So to all my lady viewers right now, keep your eyes on Christ. Pray and ask God to bring that mate, which is probably the desire of your heart, to you, to show you who that person is. And then do something that's really difficult for all of us to do in our flesh, which is to sit back and wait for God to do that. Because we get impatient, we're lonely, we want companionship, our biological clock is ticking, yada, yada, yada. I've heard it all. That is my prayer for you. Now to you men, most of you, if you've seen any of my videos, I'm a little harder on the men because I am a man, first of all. And second of all, I want men to step up and be better, to be the men that God designed them to be, to lead their home, to lead their families, to honor their mate, to honor the woman that they're considering marrying. You know, because ultimately, men, when you get in a situation in a marriage, I'm not talking living together, shacking up, all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about when you've made the commitment to marry somebody and you marry that woman, God is going to hold you responsible for your position that He has placed you in. There is a lot of responsibility that many men, including myself at one time, did not understand about biblical headship. And if you don't understand it, I will link one of my videos up in the corner here for you to go and check out. I got a whole podcast series where I talk about a lot of the things that men struggle with. Feel free to go and check it out. I'll make sure I link it in the description section as well. Bottom line is I want all of us to be better. You know what I'm saying? Because men, ultimately, when we stand before God on Judgment Day, He's not going to ask the woman how she shepherded His family. He's going to ask you. He's going to ask you, how did you love my daughter? How did you instruct and teach and raise your kids? A lot of people think it's the wife's job to teach and instruct and raise the children. No, it's just as much the man's responsibility, if not more, because he is the head. God has placed him as the head. And there's a lot of responsibility that goes with that. And I'm not talking like, okay, I'm the head, you do what I tell you to do kind of stuff. No, I'm talking about the headship, meaning laying down your life for your wife and your family. Again, my comments, which may seem harsh, is just because I want all of us to be better. And I want women to make choices that not only put them in situations like this lady was talking about, where you can see the rage and the anger from, again, my guess, that she has gone through something like this in her own life where she feels like she's had no peace. I don't believe this is God's best. Matter of fact, I know it's not God's best, nor is it God's best for us men to shuck our responsibilities. It's time for us to step up and be the men that God has called us to be. Anyway, if you haven't already done so, please like this video, share it with somebody that you know needs to hear this. Also, make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And as always, I love you guys, and I will check you on the next one. Later. Have a good night.